Hi there, my name is Amy Leisk, and I'm VP of Enable Education as well as an author. I wrote the series Think About It, Philosophy for Kids, and I was lucky enough to present at the PLATO conference in New Orleans this year, that's 2013. And these are a set of slides that I presented concerning pre-college philosophy and how to use social media to support it. So what is social media? Well, it's a bit of a moving target, and this makes it a little bit daunting for some people. It's more than just websites. A lot of people sort of lump websites in with social media, and websites are great. They can contain a whole lot of information. They can really guide people through a subject, but they're not really interactive. And social media usually refers to types of media that rely on dialogue, that invite people to comment, to participate, to share their ideas. So they're interactive. It's a little tricky because there are new platforms all the time. It seems like every time you turn around, there's a new social media site, and it's difficult to keep up with them. It's also challenging to figure out which ones speak to your particular audience. Not every social media site is going to work for every group of people. So you really have to figure out the age group, the interests, the demographics, the location, and really focus on the social media sites that apply to them. This isn't about replacing person-to-person dialogue necessarily, just encouraging people who wouldn't know about different subjects to get involved. So for the example of P4C or pre-college philosophy, it's about making parents, teachers, other influencers aware that this is actually being done and invite them to come in and participate, to learn about new resources, to find out who's doing it and where they're doing it. So what's out there? Well, there's a lot, and this slide just shows some of the more popular ones. Blogs themselves aren't really social media. They're not that interactive, but you can set them up in such a way that people can participate, they can comment, that it can be tied to other social media campaigns. So I really wanted to include that. But there's Facebook, there's Twitter, Tumblr, there's websites where you can post video content, obviously, YouTube, TeacherTube and SchoolTube, which are more sort of academic focused. There's Vimeo. Some people use Pinterest. Again, not quite what you think of for a philosophy for children initiative, but it can work. You can find sort of graphics that apply and link to that. For example, on our Pinterest page, we have a famous women in philosophy board, and it does link to various resources, so it can be used. Reddit, again, lots of people participating in that, and if you do a search, there is content up there about philosophy for children and pre-college philosophy, so people are looking for information. LinkedIn as well. In a professional capacity, you can meet up with people who are also working on philosophy for children and pre-college philosophy. And this is just a drop in the bucket. This is just a few of the sites that are out there, so lots more out there too that you can investigate. Social media has a little bit of a reputation, not always good, and perhaps this is for a reason. Just wanted to explore this infographic that's in this slide. It's taken from stats gathered by Stats Canada, and it basically illustrates how much, how many hours of information a young person in Canada on average gets in one day, and it's 16 hours and 30 minutes. And that's not all one thing at a time. So most young people, when they're using social media and other forms of technology, other forms of mass communications, are doing 3 or 4 of them at once. So they can be watching television while they're on the internet, while on their mobile devices. But we figure that it's about 16 and a half hours of information every day. That's a lot of information, and it's not always clear how it's getting filtered, where it's coming from, why it's important. So it's a lot of information. And I think for this reason, it's one of the reasons why social media makes some people a little bit nervous. They worry about quality control and quantity of information that's going through. Nevertheless, there are some common goals between social media and pre-college philosophy. Events that I've been to, people that I've spoken to, experts that I've worked with. What I get about social media from them, I also get about pre-college philosophy initiatives. And one of the things that both of them have in common is that it's about encouraging a conversation. It's not supposed to be one-sided information. It's supposed to be a dialogue. And I think you can really work with that in pre-college philosophy. You can really use social media to your advantage in that sense. Both of them encourage a wide variety of perspectives. The people participating aren't always that informed. Sometimes they don't listen, but there is a potential there anyway for a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different ideas, a lot of different viewpoints. And that's something that we encourage in pre-college philosophy as well. Comparing ideas, weighing new ones, working things into a dialogue. I've also noticed that social media, a lot of the posts are done in the form of questions. Why is this important? Top 3 reasons why you should do this. So the idea of asking questions and working through different answers is common between them. And I think all 3 of these ideas, all 3 of these commonalities can be used to the advantage of a pre-college philosophy program. So what can social media do for pre-college philosophy? Well, basically get reach. Let people know that this is being done, how beneficial it is, who's doing it, what resources are out there. We can really sort of bring more people into this wonderful program. Most platforms in social media aren't made for young children. There are age limits, but there's still a lot of people who are teachers, who are parents, who are policymakers, people of influence, who are on social media. A lot of them really use it as part of their educational campaigns, part of marketing initiatives. So they're out there. There are a lot of adults out there who really want to know about philosophy for children. In social media, generally, the more something is talked about, the more it spreads. So the more philosophy for children is being done online, the more popular it's going to get, the more people are going to be aware of it. There's a potential to pool resources within the philosophy community, to really put things together, to really show people where they can go for help, materials, where they can chat online. So there's a real potential there for people to come together. There's no geographical restrictions, which is great. There are wonderful organizations doing philosophy for children worldwide. And wouldn't it be wonderful if there were ways for them to communicate, compare notes, help each other out without geographical restrictions? And one thing I've noticed about social media is it is becoming a bit of a meritocracy. It's not enough for someone to say, we do this anymore. You have to demonstrate that you have expertise, that you have knowledge in something, that you're really interested in something, that you're passionate and you want to learn. And that's something that really comes across in social media. People really want to learn. They want good resources. Well, let's flip the coin over a little bit. What can P4C do for social media? What can pre-college philosophy do for social media? Well, social media, like a lot of new media, there's a lot of information, as we've discussed before, 16 and a half hours a day on average of information is going through to young people. We haven't really developed filters yet. It's not really in place yet that we know how to determine, what's useful information, what's harmful information, that kind of thing. So I see this as a survival skill in the year 2013. Young people really need to know how to think critically about what they see. And that's a key target, a key motivation of the P4C and pre-college philosophy movement, is to teach people to think critically, to teach children in particular to think critically. So it's kind of using social media as a tool, a means to an end and not an end in itself. It's teaching young people not to sort of see it as just fun or games or, gossip, but a real way to sort of sharpen their teeth as critics. So even if small children aren't logged in themselves, even if they're not on Twitter or Facebook, their parents are, their teachers are. And if we provide resources and support for this, they can go and pass it on to their children. So here are some general tips and tricks, and this isn't just for P4C, it's for all kinds of different organizations, all kinds of different initiatives. You choose a site that suits your audience. You don't have to cover all of the social media sites. Some will work, some won't. Find out who's listening and go for that one. Learn how to use it well. Post something useful. People want useful information. They want to know new things. They want to try new stuff. They want to know what's exciting, what's useful, what's interesting. So put something up that's really useful. Don't just put up, promotions for your latest book or, where you're going to be in a month. Put up something they can really think about. People will respond to that. Don't be afraid to recycle and revisit your content. What you use on YouTube can also be a blog post. It can also be on Twitter. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every time you want to do something on social media. You can use the same piece of material for different platforms, different sites. Make one site work for another. Again, what you put on your blog, you can use on Twitter, you can use on YouTube, you can use on Facebook. Sort of make a combined effort. You only need to follow, like, and comment on people who actually interest you. You know, it's nice to return the favor. It's nice to follow people back, but you do have the right to say, no, this doesn't really have anything to do with philosophy for children. I'm going to devote my efforts to following these people, to participating in their conversations, to commenting on their posts, that kind of thing. And there is still the potential for personal responses. It's not sort of necessarily anonymous. I know myself, whenever I have an interesting new follower, whenever someone comments on something I've posted, I reply back. There's still a potential for a conversation there, and you can still keep it relatively personal. What are the challenges of this? Well, it is free. You can join these websites for free, but it does cost time and it does cost effort. So you have to work that into it. It's sometimes difficult, particularly, if you're a philosopher and your bread and butter is to argue and to discuss and to use a lot of words. It's sometimes difficult to really cut it down to 140 characters or a short post, but it is possible. A moderator is required. You want to make sure that your conversations, that your posts, that your material that you put online, if you are going to offer the opportunity to comment on it, that people aren't going off track, that they're not saying something potentially offensive. You want to keep the discussion really focused. Posts are permanent. Even if you put something up on Twitter and then you delete it, if someone retweets it, it's out there for good. So you want to make sure that what you put up there is something you can stand behind, that you want to be associated with you. It's not always a real-time conversation. Someone can post something a week, a month, a year later, and unlike, a face-to-face conversation, it's sometimes a little challenging to really get engaged in that way. So you have to sort of work around that too. Okay, thank you for listening. My name is Amy Leask again, and I'm VP of Enable Education. I'm also the author of Think About It, Philosophy for Kids, which is a book, app, and teacher resource series that deals with philosophy for children. These are our websites and our blogs. Please feel free to visit and follow us on Twitter.